Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to episode number 15 of Coast to Coast College Football Pregame Show. I'm your host, Uncle Shally, Bill Shawcross, and we have an absolute jam-packed, great show for you today. We are finally at the point of the season. The first college football playoff rankings have come out. Not only are we going to talk about them off of week one rankings, we're going to simulate how we think it goes from here. We got recaps, we got previews, we got Eliminator Mountain. There's been some movement. A big SEC showdown this weekend as well between two powerhouses, which pretty much is a playoff elimination game. So before we get started, let me introduce two gentlemen that run this show with me. As always, my Buckeye brother from another mother, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. A little bit of a blustery Saturday morning. How are you, sir?
Hey, I cannot complain. Last Saturday, I had to be calm, cool, and collected for the big game this week. Get to be a lot more relaxed. This should be I should see what the young guys look like later on in the game kind of week. So it feels good to be on the right side of a big time win.
It's somewhat of like almost an extra bye week for you guys today. But that being said, we are going to talk about the game. That was in my opinion, it was the best game of the weekend. Two powerhouses going at it. I think I was spot on one, and I actually have to give another one of those two teams a little bit more credit than I thought I had to. So, but before we get started, our West Coast correspondent, our Big Ten brother, finally, Mr. I Black, Mr. West Coast, Mr. Super Fan of still the number one team in the country, Mr. Alex Elmore. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, especially living as the number one. I'm now 2-0 against my co-hosts against Michigan and Ohio State. So bragging rights are now owned by me on the show for now. Obviously, there could be a rematch coming up with one of you. But no, it's good. It's good to be on the show. It's another great weekend. Excited for Oregon, Maryland to play today. That'll be an exciting game. Like I said, it's such a different matchup. Or hitting Oregon versus Maryland is not something that you hear. It was not a matchup that you would think to hear often. So the matchup will be nice. It'll be two different styles of play. I'm excited for another great day of college football.
Yeah, I mean we are officially at the beginning of the home stretch here. We're gonna have college football playoff rankings every week doing the show. I think we're gonna start trying to go live on Tuesdays as a release live, which is gonna be fun if we can make that work for you guys. And then on top of everything else, still, like I said, we have a big game tonight, Alabama versus LSU, which is pretty much going to be an elimination game. So we are getting to that part of the schedule where the grind of the season is kind of caught up to teams, and you're playing for your life now. So still more great football to come. We're not even in the playoff yet. Still bowl games. There's so much more to come. So I'm excited. But we do have a lot to get to, so we got to get rolling. Alex, my guy, my man, Mr. Headline himself, let's get us going. Break the huddle.
All right, sounds perfect. All right, well, we're going to get this started off nice and easy with some news coming out of the state of Florida. Billy Napier to keep his job and stay at Florida. I think at the beginning of the season, all three of us talked about coaches on the hot seat, talking about how he's probably going to be the first to go, how they may not even get to 4 wins this season. Have they overachieved? Or is this what we should expect from Florida? They've been playing better lately with DJ Lagway leading the way. Do you think that he kind of saved his job, or what's the reason Billy still is going to be at Florida after the season?
It's 1,000% DJ Lagway saved his job. I mean, you bring in the 5-star kid. I kind of said it before the year. I thought that was going to be the only way that he could save his job. I felt like, and granted, seeing the injury happen to Graham Mertz, it's a little bit different of a situation, and I do want to show some sympathy there for Graham Mertz. However, with all of that said, if Graham Mertz had been the captain of this ship here and they were a 4-win team, I don't think you'd be getting this announcement right now. I think with DJ Lagway coming in, looking the way he looked before the injury happened in that game against Georgia, I mean, I think that really showed not just Billy Napier and that Florida fan base, but that really kind of put the country on notice that, hey, maybe DJ Lagway can be the guy for Florida and get them back on the track where, we were used to seeing the Florida standard be. And I think the other thing too is that when you have a guy like DJ Lagway and the kind of talent that he is, he bought into Billy Napier. Like, there's a reason why he went to Florida. While I'm sure the NIL, played a part in it, I'm sure a bigger part of it was he believed in Billy Napier's system and how he could develop him as a quarterback. So if you end up getting rid of Billy Napier, and you have to figure out a way to keep DJ Lagway, and there may not be any convincing. There may not be a magical number that says, hey, we can keep DJ here without ultimately letting Billy stay. So I think DJ Lagway 100% saved his job there, and I think the future is kind of looking bright because you started to get a taste of it in that Georgia game. I know it was only like a quarter and a half, but you really start to get a taste of what Florida could look like with DJ at the helm.
Yeah, so I mean, clearly people at Florida listen to the show, and that's good for us. We talked about this bit, we talked about it at some point. He was going to have to play this card, and for all the reasons Cottrell just mentioned, we thought DJ might help him keep his job because again, you can't if he really is that bought in on Billy Napier, and you can't risk him hitting the portal because if that kid hits the portal, he will get a Brinks trunk of money to go somewhere else after what he's already shown in the brief glimpses and flashes that he's played this year. On top of that, I will give Billy Napier a little bit of credit because Alex mentioned this in the intro. I do think they've overachieved a little bit. We did. We talked about them at the beginning of the year. Like, we weren't sure they were going to win 4 games. They got a chance to get bowl eligible. I think they're playing, as rough as it kind of looked at the beginning of the year, they're playing a lot better now. Like Cottrell said, with Lagway in the game, it's really easy to sit there and kind of take a step back and, daydream a little bit of what they're going to look like next year and the year after with him at quarterback. He's special. He's a special talent. He is one of those kids that gets that, rare 5-star plus rating. He's and from what the little he's shown already, he looks like he's going to be everything that he was cracked up to be. So I don't know how much leeway he gets past next year, though. I would say that. I think they would definitely have to improve next year. Not saying to make the playoff or anything like that, but they can't have like another 500 season, though. Billy Napier survives. Again, I don't have anything against the guy. I actually like Billy Napier. And I thought when they hired him, I thought that was a home run hire for Florida. So it just hasn't quite worked out like we thought it would, as fast as we thought it would. But I'm glad he's going to get one more shot because I do think he's the coach and I do think he's the guy, that can really kind of bring Florida back to where they used to be. That's a powerhouse program. That's a top 15 job in the country, no matter how you slice it. So good for Billy. I hope they continue to improve the rest of the year. And then, like I said, if you're a college football fan, you just have to be, just on an excitement level. He's going to be an exciting kid to watch. He's going to be a future Heisman type guy. He's everything, like I said, everything that he was expected to be.
Yeah, I mean, with Billy Napier, I think honestly with DJ Lagway's play, that does help. But I also think that, with was it the sports books at the beginning of the season that had, I'm pretty sure it was at 3.5 as over under for their win total this season. And I'm pretty sure people ran to the sports books and hammered the under with what their schedule looked like. 7 ranked opponents. This was a schedule straight out of hell. And I think that the fact that they do have 4 wins at this point in the season with 3 ranked matchups in a row coming up, I think that this is an overachievement from what was expected. And I think that's why he earned at least another season at the helm of this Florida team to at least get have a chance to see maybe next year they have a little bit of a more realistic schedule. I doubt they have 2 years of a schedule this daunting, and I think that they want to see what it looks like in a more competitive schedule. So I think that it's definitely deserved. I didn't expect them to get more than 2 wins this season, so good for them. Anything else on Billy Napier you guys want to kind of throw out there before we kind of move on to the other side of the country and talk about USC?
The one thing that really just a couple of things. I think first, I would say, yes, them getting 4 wins it's good for them, but outside of the UCF game, I guess UCF and Kentucky, those are 2 games that I thought could go either way throughout the season there, especially with the way that Kentucky kind of started off the year there, UCF as well. But seeing how DJ played, I think that definitely was a huge factor in it. I would say if they were at the same point this year and you hadn't seen DJ at all and it had been just Graham in there and they finished the season at 4-8, then I think we'd be having a different discussion. But especially with DJ being in there, you saw what he looked like against Kentucky. You saw him in that first game against Samford, where he put up a ton of points there. And I think you even saw glimpses of that in that Georgia game. You're going to get a chance. It seems like he's going to be a game time decision later today, but you're going to get a chance to see DJ against one of the best teams in the country in Texas. And if they can keep this game close or even find a way to win it, then, I mean, that just goes to show you how far this Florida team has come. So to this point, them getting 4 wins, I think it's nice. Is it an overachievement? I guess by a technicality, yes. But I mean, I thought the Kentucky and UCF game would be toss-ups, like one way or another. I'm like, I could see them potentially getting to 4. But with Texas remaining, obviously later today, with LSU the following week, and then finishing out the year with Ole Miss and Florida, or Ole Miss and Florida State, if you can find a way to win one of these next 3 weeks, whether it be against Texas, LSU, or Ole Miss, you're going to be bowl eligible. And if you get bowl eligible with one of the top quarterbacks in the country, you are in a great spot. So I understand Florida's decision-making within the process here, but we're going to see if they're going in that right direction later today, like pretty much right away, like right at noon. We're going to see if DJ is ready for the big time moment, if he can go.
Yeah, I mean, they said he's going to be game time, so I'm assuming Billy Napier said earlier on a Thursday, I believe it was, that he's going to do everything and try to get him ready to go, and he wants to play. But at the same time, anytime I hear that, I feel like he's really not questionable. I feel like it's more towards doubtful. I think he'll warm up, take the field, and do some things, and maybe give Texas the look that he might going to play. But my gut is he's not going to play later today. But I hope he does, because that makes that game way more exciting, like you said, at noon. So I will definitely be tuned into that. But hopefully we see him back, sooner than later. But I mean, they should destroy Florida State. I mean, Florida State's terrible. I think we got I think we're focused on the wrong coach in Florida getting fired this year. I don't know how they bring Mike Norvell back after this. I don't. But that's a different discussion for a different topic for a different day. Alex, where are we going next?
Yeah, we're going to go across country down to University of Southern California, USC. Miller Moss, y'all, the second coming after Caleb Williams. He got benched in favor of UNLV transfer Jaden Maeva. They're off to a 4-5 start to the season. Multiple late game losses. Miller Moss looked great week 1. Ever since then, he's had some suspect moments. Was this just writing on the wall this whole time, or is this a little bit unexpected?
I'm gonna say it's unexpected, and I'm gonna say Lincoln Riley is kind of, I don't want to say making him the scapegoat, but I think Lincoln Riley is just trying to do anything at this point to kind of get that season turned around. I'm not going to say suspect performances at the beginning. He played very well against Michigan. He played great against Penn State. The defense, I think they're still averaging offensively. I think they're averaging 24, 25 points a game. The losses at Minnesota and stuff like that, I don't think you can pin them at the feet of Mason. But I think Lincoln Riley, it's kind of like pulling a goalie, like in a hockey game. I think he's just looking for some kind of spark or just some kind of different look. There's also a lot of reports that Lincoln Riley is starting to take a lot of heat out at USC, and that wouldn't be surprising either. I think a lot of us thought maybe like a 1-year turnaround. We're way further down the road now. USC is not back to the glory that they thought they were going to be, and for the extensive amount of money that Lincoln Riley is being paid. I think a lot of people within that program are starting to get a little agitated. So I think it's a combination of those two things and a lot of pressure. And I think he just, maybe he just wants to see what he has. That's a weird flex for me after letting a guy start 9 games and you're still trying to get bowl eligible. But, I would say Lincoln Riley probably knows more than I do, but I still think it's a very questionable decision.
Very questionable. I mean, to this point in the year, I get it. USC is not where you wanted them to be, but for a guy that has over 2,000 yards already to this point in the year, has only thrown 6 interceptions, and I get it. You've lost some games this year that you weren't expecting to. But how good did you really think this USC team was going to be? I mean, I think after week 1, we saw how they beat LSU, and it was like, okay, maybe we've underestimated this USC team. But then as you watch games, and it's like, no, we didn't underestimate them. They showed up for game 1 against the Brian Kelly coach team, which, again, we're never surprised when he loses games that he should. And they've really been just brought back to reality. Look, the defense has played a lot better this year, and I get it. Offense is supposed to be the thing, and Lincoln Riley is supposed to be the guy with this prolific offense and score a ton of points. Miller Moss is not Caleb Williams. Miller Moss is not Jalen Hurts. Miller Moss is not Baker Mayfield. Like, I know Lincoln's had a ton of great quarterbacks here, but at the end of the day, I think you really have to focus on what you have, and I think with this Miller Moss situation here, you shouldn't have benched him. Biggest reason being is that, especially nowadays with the age of the transfer portal, I think Miller is going to find himself in that portal, and it's already been put out there that there's some links for him, potentially looking at Michigan with the quarterback vacancy that they have there. I mean, I think that would be, pretty interesting there. So I think it's a bad move on Lincoln Riley's part. And Bill, you say you didn't want to make him the scapegoat, or you didn't want to say he was a scapegoat. That's what Lincoln was doing. But I mean, essentially, that is what he's doing. He thinks that the offense can be better with a different quarterback, and I just don't see that. We saw what Jaden was last year at UNLV. Alex, I actually think you brought him up a couple times on the show last year, and he was good. He was good. Don't get me wrong, but Miller was a guy that you felt comfortable enough with to let Malachi Nelson, who I get it hasn't played yet at Boise State, but you let Malachi Nelson, a 5-star kid that you brought in that you thought was going to be your future, let him walk out the door because you thought Miller was ready to take over that role. So I don't think you do that and have that much confidence in a guy where you only give him an 8-game sample size.
Hey, man, we did talk about Maeva last year. The dude is a baller. At UNLV, he put up some great numbers. And just for those of you out there who are not familiar with him, he had over 3,000 passing yards last year at UNLV, 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He had some good legs underneath him, but he wasn't much of a running quarterback. I think he had a strong arm. And like I said, I think he just needs some better coaching. And I think that will really I think he needs some better coaching. I think 9 games behind Miller Moss, getting to kind of learn the offense a little bit better. I think he's in the prime spot to kind of take over that role. And I don't know if he gives this spot back, to be honest. The way what I saw from him last year with his athleticism and playmaking capabilities, this may be a new permanent switch at USC, and it could be a game changer. This could be the spark, kind of like DJ Lagway to Florida. This could be the spark the USC team needs. So we'll see how it turns out.
I don't know if we should be mentioning him and DJ Lagway in the same sentence.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying just like he sparked Florida, I think that Maeva can spark USC a little bit.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think this situation is going to go backwards, because this story all broke pretty much because it pretty much leaked out, and it's pretty much common knowledge that he's going to hit the portal. So I don't think he plays. Barring an injury, I don't think he plays another down for USC this year. I really don't. I think he's probably going to stay with the team and probably not try to be a distraction. But I don't think he plays. I don't think he plays for USC again. I really don't.
And I think the other thing too that makes this different, I know it's not, apples to apples here. I'm not saying that's what you were implying there, Alex, but Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway were very different dynamics of quarterback. DJ wanted to stretch the ball downfield and really just added an element to that Florida offense that Graham Mertz really didn't give you. In this case here, Miller was able to stretch the ball downfield. Miller was able to hit the intermediate routes. He was able to read defenses here. And I get it, Jaden's a little bit more mobile, but I don't see the trade-off being as significant as what you saw in Florida, just because the styles aren't like aligned there. So I don't think you get that same kind of spark with USC as you did in Florida.
Well, they have a bye week this week, and then we see him again next week. Let's see who USC has. Nebraska next week at home, so it's a good spot. At least he's not going to make his first start on the road. I think he's set up for success.
It's a very winnable game.
Yeah, I think it is.
It
So
has to
this
be. If you don't win, you don't go to a bowl game because you're not beating Notre Dame at the end of the year.
Doesn't get more cutthroat than that. So obviously the graphics were done early in the week. We had some breaking news coming around 5:30 last night that Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia is suing the NCAA over his eligibility and NIL. He played 4 years at junior college, and the NCAA counts those years against your eligibility. Therefore, he will not be eligible to play next season. He is suing, saying that the NCAA is limiting athletes from capitalizing on NIL value. And like I said, not a lot of news out. Like I said, just broke last night, so not too much. Really, just a lot of speculation right now. But Bill, I know that you're the one who kind of brought it to our attention when it came out. Any initial kind of reaction from you?
I mean, anybody that sees the NCAA is good in my book. So this is going to be an interesting one, though. This is going to be another one that I think is going to be. They're going to have to rule on it relatively, sooner than later, because he's going to have to know if he's leaving school after this year or if he's going to be able to come back and play next year. He only played 1 year in JUCO, not 4. But they're saying obviously that counts towards that's counting towards his NCAA eligibility. His argument is that it's breaking the antitrust law, which we've seen pretty much every time this has gone in front of a judge. They've ruled against the NCAA. We saw it with the Tennessee situation, and what school went in with Tennessee? I can't remember. Who it was, Kentucky maybe. But again, this is when you let broad things sit out there for a really long time and don't address them and just sit there and stack your money. This is what you're going to have. I hope he wins. I think he's one of the absolute best stories, along with that entire team in college football this year. I don't know. I don't know if JUCO year. I think if you play one JUCO year, I just really don't think it should count.
Well, here's the kicker. It was the 2020-2021 season, which was the COVID year.
COVID, correct.
Exactly. So there's a lot of muddying in that water that can.
There's going to be a lot of muddy because he's going to say, at worst case, he should be able to play one more year because he should have his COVID year if he wants it. In worst case, I do, because I think anytime the few times this has gone in front of circuit judges with antitrust stuff, they've pretty much hammered the NCAA, saying, you're not clear about what these things are and what they're not. You guys just paint with this really broad brush and don't define anything, and now you want us to just sit here and back you. And again, the NCAA has just overreached with their power and what they really can and can't do for so long that these schools are realizing, you know what, if we want to go to court with the NCAA, we have the money to pay top end lawyers, we can do it. And they just kept, honestly, look at the NCAA's court record the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, they just keep taking L's out of nowhere. And again, they sat there and fought for kids not for NIL to not even be legal, lost that, and now just out of spite, they don't monitor it because they're like, all right, well, we lost the court case, you guys can do whatever you want. They suck. They just do. I'm not going to go on the rant, but they're just terrible. It's not an organization that functions or is based in good faith. It's not. They are a bunch of people that get together and make rules, and for forever, all these schools have followed them. But all they really do is they sit there and they make a gazillion dollar off TV rights and off the backs of all these kids in all these sports. They sell the TV rights to March Madness every year for another billion some dollars. And they just sit there and stack money. It's just crazy. They don't do what they're supposed to do. They don't govern college sports. So I hope he wins. Like I said, I hope he wins. I hope he gets another year to come back. And mainly just because, like I said before, I think Vanderbilt is absolutely, one of the top 10 storylines of college football this year. It's been great. And, at any time you can elevate another SEC school, if they can keep them at this level, or, as long as Vanderbilt doesn't go back to being the 1-win team every year, if they win 5, 6, 7 games a year, like I said, I don't think Vanderbilt's ever going to have that miracle run where they go 11-1. Like, I don't think that's going to happen because they are in the SEC. But if Vanderbilt wins 7 games every year, that makes the SEC so much better, because like other coaches have joked or commented about, like, you don't wake up any Saturday morning and I forget what the exact quote was, but it was pretty much Vanderbilt was the one place you didn't worry about going, and now you have to worry about going there. So I wish him well. I think he should get his other year, because between JUCO and a COVID waiver, just let the kid play, dude. Like, it's just stupid. I mean, especially when you, like, again, not to push the button, but you have Dylan Gabriel, who's in his whatever year. You've had these guys the last couple of years play 5-6 years of college, so he wants to play the 5th one and use his COVID waiver, and you're telling me he can't because he played at JUCO. It's not even an NCAA sanctioned level, so who cares?
Bill's like, stupid. I don't want to go on a rant, and then goes on a rant.
I'm done. That's not a real rant. Trust me. I could talk about the NCAA for an hour. You guys will just sit there and fall asleep. I could do it. I promise you.
For me, I think it's a little bit more nuanced. Anytime someone's fighting the NCAA, just like Bill, I'm always on board with it. But I think this one gets a little bit dicey only because the years in question here, it's not the 2020-2021 season. It's the 21-22 season. So he actually played that year. So it was the year following COVID. And then he played, the 2 years at New Mexico State, and then now this year at Vanderbilt. So I think when you have 4 complete seasons on your belt and those 4 years don't line up with COVID, like, we know what happened in 2020. The intention was for you to get 4, it's always been the intention for you to play 4 seasons in college, like 4 complete seasons. And so while I think it's right for him for what he's doing to try and get that extra year, because he's probably going to be getting life-changing money. I don't think anybody's expecting Diego Pavia to have a shot at making it to the NFL. So this is really his last chance to make this kind of money for what he's doing, and really capitalize on that. And so I'm rooting for him, but I think it does get a bit dicey because there aren't many rules and regulations among the NCAA that are pretty clear. As far as playing wise, though, in the eligibility, you play 4 years and that's it. Like, you got kids that come from D2, you got kids that come from JUCO. And Bill, I understand what you're saying. They're not actually sanctioned by the NCAA because, junior college has their own association. Still 4 years of playing, full seasons of football here. So I hope he wins. I think he should win. I'm not against it at all. Playing a year at JUCO, it shouldn't disqualify you. I'd love if they, just change the rule altogether. If you're a JUCO kid and you go in, you still get, the years of eligibility. If you spend 2 years at a JUCO, you should still have at least 3 years of eligibility left moving forward. So I'm 100% behind that. But in this case, I think it's going to be 50-50 what way the pendulum swings there.
Well, like I said, his lawyer released a statement saying that they were suing because they felt as if, because JUCO, they can't collect NIL money for name, image, and likeness. So essentially, he wasn't guaranteed 4 years of that opportunity. So the reasoning makes sense. Just like you said, Coachella, it's kind of going to be 50-50 here, as far as I kind of agree that he's played his time, but it's also like I want to see more Diego Pavia. You know what I mean? So it's almost like is what I want right, or is I don't know which one's right. So we're going to find out, but that's just a little breaking news. It's not on the headlines here. It's a little back page news for you. So like I said, we're not really speculating too much. That will obviously more news will come out. And I hopefully the media distraction from this. I just feel like the timing is super weird. I mean, like I feel like there's plenty of time after the season ends to do this, not when you guys are like about to be bowl eligible, or not when you guys are like ranked and bowl eligible for the first time. I feel like this is just a bad time, unless he's trying to capitalize on the uproar that the Vanderbilt has right now. I don't know. I just feel the timing feels off.
He probably can get a whole bunch of petitions and stuff, and people are going to be talking about it now. And if Vanderbilt loses 3 or 4 games in a row, you won't have that. I mean, yeah, people are still going to be rooting for him. Like, don't get me wrong, but you won't have as much attention as you do right now. Like, Vanderbilt's not going to get any hotter than where they're at right now.
Just try, might as well capitalize when you can. I get it. All right, but like I said, that's some back page news for you guys that isn't on the headline here. But next, we're going to jump into last week's scoreboard. Let's go ahead and take a look at what those scores look like, and let's do a little breakdown for us. Bill, take it away.
We talked about Florida a little bit, so we'll go back there. We'll start with Georgia, Florida. Cottrell mentioned it earlier. This was a pretty tight game for a quarter and a half. I would say the score is probably not really indicative of what it looked like in the first half for sure. But again, just kind of the experience and the leadership and, just used to playing in big games. Saw a lot of adjustments in the second half. Georgia looked a lot better. And Florida's really just, they're pretty much, playing their third string quarterback at this point, who I don't think, is getting that many reps in practice, behind Lagaway and everything. So I give Florida credit. They battled, especially in the first half, just kind of ran out of gas and kind of ran out of plays they really felt comfortable running. And Georgia just a little bit too good down the stretch. But, again, if you would ask me 6 weeks ago if Florida was going to, hang in that game for almost the entire first half, I would have told you no. But Georgia's still going through like lulls, though. A little bit. It's a little bit weird to me. I don't know. I don't know how to take it. I know they can't have the dominant teams that they had those 2 years in a row when they went back-to-back championships, but they go in these dry spells for like 3 or 4 drives in a row. They're just like 3 and out, or they gain like 4 yards and punt, and they look. I don't know what the right word is. And then
Carson Beck throws an interception.
Or something. Yeah.
3 games in a row, we said more than 1 interception. 11 interceptions on the season. Dude needs to chill. Like, chill, bro.
I think part of it is I think they're throwing the ball way more than they used to. And I think that's because they have trust in him. But at the same time, the running game hasn't been great. ETN really just I don't think he's really been healthy all year. He's banged up again. It's not. I said this on Wednesday, and I'll say it again this morning. I clearly think Ohio State, Oregon, and Georgia are probably the best 3 teams in the country. I think the rankings are right. I don't think there's one dominant team between the 3 of them, though. I think there's way more parity this year than there has been in a couple years past, and that's good for us. It's good for college football, but like I said, he'll throw a bad pick, but then he'll come out and 3 straight drives he'll go down the field and score. It's just a lot of up and down. He's got to be more consistent, and to Alex's point, he's got to tighten it up down the stretch. Stuff he got away with Florida, he will not get away with against an Oregon or an Ohio State or a team like that. Here we go. But we'll get to that later. But yeah, to some degree, Ole Miss. I think they need more consistency out of him, and I don't think they thought going into the season, coming off the season he had last year, that was going to be an issue for him, and I think clearly is. I think he's trying to do too much. But Georgia, again, like I said, they won. I think they won like they expected to, and I think Florida looked a little bit better than I think we all thought he was going to.
Yeah, and I don't want to harp on this game too much because the score was not indicative of how this game really went. Second half, Georgia really figured it out late. Like this game was tight, really all the way up until the middle of the fourth quarter. And I 100% believe that if DJ Lagway was healthy, that Florida would have found a way to gut this game out and come out on top. Like both these guys already mentioned, Carson Beck is a turnover machine right now. He has not had it figured out at all this year. And I think a big part of that is they don't have any reliable weapons that he can just go to when times get tough. Last year, Justin, just for you had Lab McConkey. You had Brock Bowers.
Shot.
He could just throw the ball up to, or he had guys that he knew were going to be open. And this year it feels a lot more scheme dependent, and he's making bad decisions. So to your other point, Bill, about ETN and just that run game in general, they have been banged up, primarily ETN there, but this is just different than in years past. Like, this isn't the Georgia running backs that we're used to. This is, there's no Sony Michel there. There's no Nick Chubb there. There's no Todd Gurley. Like, there's so many prolific Georgia running backs in years past, and they just don't have anything close to that right now. So you had Dewan Edwards as well, recently when they had the championship runs as well. So Georgia's got lots to figure out. And, it's nice that they have kind of had these games that weren't upper echelon games per se, like a Mississippi State or Florida Florida last week without DJ for the majority of the game. But like Alex kind of alluded to, you got Ole Miss today, and as bad as I think Lane Kiffin can be in big games, I think talent-wise, what Ole Miss has on offense, Carson Beck's going to have to strap up his boots and put some points up on the board.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I have to say. DJ Lagway plays the full game. We may be having a whole different conversation. 2 turnovers in the second half. An interception by Carson Beck and a fumble later in the game. Florida got the ball on the 50-yard line and their own 40. DJ Lagway's in on those possessions. They score on one of those. Instead, because he wasn't in there, that's 2 3-and-outs, 2 punts. They had fantastic starting field position on 2 drives in the second half that were game-changing opportunities that, because their third stringer was in, who was 7 for 22 through the air, not very efficient, we could say. I don't think he was probably expecting to get put in that position against a Georgia defense. I think this game could be a different outcome. So, yeah, Georgia needs to tighten it up a little bit. And, honestly, I think that the way the team looked and the opportunities they had this is why Billy Napier, we talked earlier about, is keeping his job. But I'm telling you right now, Carson Beck throws 3 interceptions to an Ole Miss defense and gives it that offense 3 additional times. Ole Miss is scoring 2 out of those 3. So that is a game-changing thing, and they need to kind of clean up. But like I said, they got the win. They're number 3 in the country. That's all that matters.
Alex, it's funny you say that because I agree with you 1,000%. I even said it on Wire to Wire as well. You give Ole Miss and Jackson Dart 3 extra possessions, they will make you pay. I'm not going to say they score on 2 of the 3, but I will say if Carson Beck, I would be able to write this in Sharpie. If Carson Beck throws 3 interceptions later today, Ole Miss will win the football game, and we're going to be talking about next week scenarios in which Georgia doesn't make the college football playoff, because that would be a huge detriment. Without getting too far ahead, because I know we got rankings in the bracket. You got 2 losses, and you're going to essentially have a tie-breaking loss to Ole Miss, who will also have 2 losses. This could be a detrimental game for that Georgia team. So hopefully Carson Beck can figure it out, and we'll see what happens later today.
Agreed. I mean, again, we talked about the one game we're going to preview later. Depending on what happens in the next couple of weeks, you're probably going to have other elimination games in the regular season that are going to be do or die games, which is great. This is what we wanted. Even more so. When we went for the 14 playoffs of the 12, it does make every game matter. So we'll go to the next game here. This was an entertaining game. It was way more high scoring than I thought it was going to be. But it was 2 teams that kind of had, outside playoff aspirations, maybe sneak it in, having a crack at the ACC title. SMU, who, give him his flowers, Alex has been very high on all year, 48, Pitt 25.
Since week 0, baby.
Week 0. So I'll let Alex go first here, but SMU offensively, man, they are impressive when they get it rolling and they got some momentum behind them.
Man, it's nuts because we were talking about Kevin Jennings being questionable before the game, not knowing if he was going to be able to go, but still feeling confident that SMU could take care of business against Pitt. Preston Stone as the backup, but Kevin Jennings played, and Kevin Jennings played well. 17 for 25, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I said, scoring 24 points in the second quarter really put this game away, and then kind of matched score for score in the second half. to keep Pitt, kind of at bay, getting that 23-point and kind of breezing to that 23-point win. Brashard Smith looked fantastic on the ground, 23 carries, 161 yards, 7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. The whole offense was really rolling. Matthew Hibner, 108 yards receiving. And Pittsburgh's offense in the second half, honestly, I actually really was impressed by Pittsburgh's fight in the second half, because when you go into half down 31-3 against a ranked team that's clearly outplaying you in every facet of the game, and you come out and you battle and you match point for point in the second half, it's easy to quit in that game. So shout out to Pitt for really kind of fighting to the end of that game. But SMU looks like a juggernaut, and I'm pumped for the rest of the season. They got a bye this week. They got who is it next week? I forgot who they have. They have Boston College next week, which will be another great game. And they just locked down a quarterback commit from Matt Leinart's son. So that the future's looking bright. So I'm excited for the SMU football. And
it's funny you say that too, because, while I'm about to get into SMU and how great they looked in that game, give a lot of credit to that Pat Narduzzi bunch. Like you said, Alex, it is not easy to be on the road and really just getting your doors blown off to come out and show some fight there. A lot of teams, especially in that spot, you're undefeated to this point and you're going to lose the football game. A lot of teams roll over there. So give Narduzzi and that coaching staff a lot of credit for having those guys, come out that second half and show some fight there. And I think on the flip side of that as well, for SMU, this is a game that showed me that they have what it takes to at least compete with a team like Miami in that ACC championship game. The offense was explosive, and obviously they put up a ton of points in this game. But the thing that stuck out to me most was SMU's ability to get off chunk plays in this one. It felt like every receiver was able to have, a reception of 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards. At will, the offense was moving the ball down the field. And it was such a balanced attack as well. Alex already went over the numbers between Jennings, passing the ball, and then Smith running the ball up and down the field. But when you have damn near 500 yards of total offense, that just tells you how explosive you can be. And I know we're going to probably get into Miami at some point, because we got to talk about the rankings. And right now, Miami's, the leader in the clubhouse in the ACC there. But with a team like Miami that's begging to get beat, and you have an offense like this that has it clicking on all cylinders, you have what it takes. We're talking about an outside shot at the playoff, sneaking in as an at-large team. We're talking about a team that could have a first-round bye here and really be a dangerous out for, some of these teams after playing a home or an away playoff game. So give SMU a lot of credit, and I think SMU is a team that has a really bright future moving on, even if that means a date with Miami in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, listen, on a neutral field, I don't think you can tell me for certain that SMU can't beat Miami. So is maybe SMU first year of the college football playoff. Maybe SMU is the first one to, kind of rain on the party and steal a spot that somebody else would have got. Because if Miami gets there undefeated, even if they lose that game, they're going to make the playoffs. So that would knock somebody out. So that would be chaos. I'm here for it. SMU is definitely a fun team to watch. So, all these playoff games are going to be staggered. So I promise you, if you have not watched them yet, watch them. And if not, when they're, if they do make the playoffs somehow, you will be very satisfied to sit there and watch their 3-hour game before another game comes on. I promise you. So,
Bill, and it's funny you say that, because literally we just talked about the last game. And again, I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because there's so much that we're talking about on the show.
We're going to be there in a couple minutes.
That makes Georgia and Ole Miss that much more important.
Yeah.
Because if SMU wins the ACC and Miami has to get moved down to one of those at-large bids, and you're a 2-loss team, we're talking about a team that's right now the number 3 team in the country. This game is important. So I love it. I love that we moved to 12. We finally got it right. I just wanted to emphasize how important these games can be.
I'm sad though.
Why?
Could you imagine? Because this is SMU's first year in the ACC, and if God forbid they do somehow make it to the ACC championship and they lose to Miami, we could be talking about an SMU team that's finishing outside the bubble. Like this could be a team that's
like
right.
100%.
Yeah, and it's just like, but it's just crazy because they are such a great team. And last year in the AAC, that they would have had an opportunity to be that at-large team in the same situation. So it's just
true. I think the only way the ACC gets to is if SMU wins the ACC championship.
And Miami one loss, SMU one loss. I wish BYU and SMU were playing like right now. I wish they could rematch that game because I think it'd be a totally different game. Shut up, Bill. Shut up, Bill.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't know when you're going to learn, bro. I don't know when you're going to learn, but we'll see. All right, let's head up to Ann Arbor, Oregon 38, Michigan 17. This was 31-17 with like 10 seconds to go. Dan Lanning decided to put another touchdown on the board, which is fine. He'll pay for that eventually, I promise you.
Oh my gosh.
That was not the wisest thing to do, in my opinion, but it's fine. It's he didn't do a trick play or anything. He was running the ball, but he couldn't.
It was 11 plays for 90 yards. Y'all couldn't stop that. You took 7 minutes off the clock. What more do you want the man to do?
When you get to the 10 and there's a minute to go and there's no timeouts, you kneel the ball. It's fine. Nah. Listen. Not even mad about it. I'm just telling you.
Brother in his place.
I'm telling you.
This is what you are now.
There will be okay. There will be little brother has the national championship. You don't. So
that'll change in what, 3 months?
We'll see. You got a lot of football left to go there, brother.
Maybe not for you though.
That being said, this was a competitive football game. For the most part, Oregon was gifted a touchdown that for a ball that was never caught. Not sure how that didn't get that. I
love the shade.
That didn't influence the impact of this game at all. Trust me.
Not why we lost. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying. You take away the garbage one and the one that you just didn't flat out catch with a referee sitting there staring at it and they didn't review it. I'm saying it was a competitive football game. It's probably the best game Michigan's played all year. They were in the game for most of it. Oregon just has too much depth on offense right now. No Will Johnson last week. And the offense took a little while to get going, and you just can't give Oregon the football that many times. I would just say, like I reiterated earlier, I know Oregon's number one. Ohio State is number 2 now, and Georgia's 3. I think the 3 of them are the upper echelon of the class this year. I don't think there's a dominant team though. There was parts of the game, even as bad as Michigan is this year, there was parts of that game where they controlled the game. Oregon couldn't put them away until very late. I think it's just going to be very, very fun to watch coming down the stretch. I firmly believe that. We'll get into all that in a little bit, but another big win for Oregon. Another big check mark on their resume. And obviously they're number 1 for a reason. Michigan continues to kind of get a little bit better week by week. They're just not going to do anything crazy, until they get a quarterback in there next year. But that's neither here nor there. So Oregon moves on. Are you guys off this week? I know you Maryland. Yeah, might as well be.
But Cottrell and I were talking about this, and Cottrell, this is gonna be fun for us. They have Michigan's got 5 wins. All right, there's 3 weeks left. They need 1 more win to be bowl eligible. They got Indiana today, Northwestern, and Ohio State. Okay, so obviously, we're going to preview the Indiana game today. So I don't want any previews or any predictions. But Cottrell, what do you put the percentage at that Michigan gets bowl eligible?
For me, I think it's at 50.
50-50.
I think it's quite literally 50-50. Bill, you shake your head all you want to. At the end of the day, not having a quarterback has cost you games so far. And I get it. Northwesterners, they're not world beaters at all, but they're also going to be fighting for their bowl eligibility life as well in that game. So not to mention, that's going to be the game right before, guess who? Ohio State. And Bill, you know as well as I know that every year the game before the game is always a battle. So I think I mean, I think it's definitely something that can happen, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Michigan doesn't win another football game this year.
Cool. That's all I wanted to hear. I just want to hear what's your thoughts on that, and we want to get it on camera because I think it's 50-50 also. That Northwestern game turns into a really interesting game because Northwestern has Michigan and then Illinois. So they have to win those last two games to become bowl eligible. So that's that Michigan game is going to be that first stepping stone. So I think Northwestern gives them all they got, but we don't want to jump too far ahead. But as far as Oregon, Michigan, like I said, the game Oregon jumped out early. Second half, Oregon again unable to score in the third quarter, only scoring 3 points, and then again really didn't score again until the end of the fourth. So second half offense continues to be a worry as an Oregon Duck fan. Because like I said, before it made sense when they were up big, they weren't trying to reveal too much. They would kind of take the gas off the pedal. But in this situation, I don't think the game was fully, truly put away in the second half for us to start doing that, which makes me think that they don't make great offensive adjustments in the second half. So I kind of really want Maryland to give us a game today. Like, if I'm being honest as a fan, I want to see the Ducks and Oregon and Maryland go into halftime, maybe like a Ducks 7-point or less lead. I want to see Dan Lanning make some adjustments for the second half, and Oregon take those adjustments and be successful with them. I don't know if that's weird for me to want that, but that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see a little bit of turmoil, just like we saw against Ohio State. Like, I want to see if he can do that again, and create the same magic. I don't know if I'm crazy for saying that, but just something on my mind about the Ducks offense really stalling in the second half.
All right. If you think I'm letting either one of you off the hook about saying that we are losing at home to freaking Northwestern, you're out of your mind.
We could bypass that, huh?
There will be bets placed on this show now.
No, that's not.
That's 50, not what we're saying, man.
Listen. Okay, all right. But here's what you're saying now. You're saying our season comes down to that game. I'll fully admit we're not beating Ohio State. I've said that from the get-go. So you're both assuming we lose to Indiana today, which is not a crazy statement. So then our bowl eligibility could strictly relies on that Northwestern game next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys think it's only a 50-50 shot we beat Northwestern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We will be betting on that game.
I think
there will be show bets. There will be show bets for that.
Bill, I think
for November 23rd.
I think if that game was October 8th, I would feel a lot different about it. But like I said, as well as I know, the week before the game,
that's what it's somebody
you
good.
Play down to it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It does.
It doesn't.
When it's like Maryland and stuff like that. I've used that example. Yeah.
Yeah, Maryland. A couple years ago when Illinois they were okay. They weren't anything special. And you guys went to the brink with them that year. Like it happens. Almost every year it happens.
Here's the thing I will say about Michigan, though. They will be coming off of a bye that week before. So, or did they have obviously they have a bye. So they'll have an extra week of preparation.
I'm going to say show bets. We're doing show bets for that.
I'm not saying you're going to lose. I just think it's up
you said 50-50. If you both would have been like, I think I'm not going to say
it's betting on it
because I don't want to deal. I don't want to deal with
With that being said, Cottrell,
I would have respected that. You both ran your mouth. You're like 50-50.
I think you could win. I think you could lose. That's 50-50.
That's every game. That's every game for every team.
Hear me out. This is why we should do this. Okay, this is gonna sound crazy, but you ever like when you play video games and like you put on super hard to try it out, and then like, oh, it's super hard, it's too hard for me. Then you lower it down, and then the game seems super easy. Well, think about this. Northwestern is playing Ohio State the week before Michigan, super hard level, and then they're going to play Michigan's offense, which is going to be like, oh, what is this? This is like easy mode. So I don't know. I think about taking this bet. We'll have to talk about this more. Only a couple weeks away.
Alex, you better pray you win the championship this year, bro.
Trust me, man. I am.
Like, pray.
I'm sorry, that was too funny of a comment in my brain. It had to leave my mouth.
That's fine, because bro, that's how everybody felt about playing Oregon every year up until last year. Like, oh man,
that is not true.
If we could beat Washington, we don't got to worry about Oregon. We just got to beat Washington. So I understand. I know you're familiar with the feeling. I understand.
I know, Bill. Beating Washington is hard.
Everybody speaks from experience. I understand.
On to the next one.
On to the game of the week. There's going to be insane bets. on this show in 2 weeks. November 23rd. It's the week you want to tune into. Ohio State went into Happy Valley. Number 3,
Sad
Penn
Valley.
State. Sad Valley. James Franklin. Can't coach Valley. Whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Jeez.
And won 20-13. Great football game, though. Great football game. Big Ten game at its finest. Again,
Wasn't that the score last year?
20-12 last year.
20-12 last year. Jeez, man, that's like history repeating itself.
James Franklin got a new OC. They're 1 point better now. So
that's funny.
I will say this. This was the kind of gut check kind of game that I need to see out of Ohio State. I will say they passed. I will say in a loss, though, I will say this. I said at the beginning of the year there was 3 teams that were going to be fool's gold, and Penn State I thought was going to be one of the 3. The other 2 have already proved me right, but Penn State I think is capable of winning a national championship. I think they can do that if they get into a close game in the fourth quarter and somebody kidnaps James Franklin and takes him off the sideline and locks him in a closet somewhere. And I'm really not even kidding, but Penn State's a very, very, very good football team. Their offense still leaves a little bit to be desired at times, but that being said, minus the play calling on that last drive, which was just I don't even know the word to call it. Besides awful, they had every chance to either tie that game or possibly win it. But Ohio State,
moment. Get the ball to Marshawn Lynch, man. Just turn around and hand it off.
Well, they tried it 3 times, but they tried it.
4th time's the charm.
Well, fine. I'd have been more fine with that than running the play that they ran, where they put 4 wide receivers in an 8-yard grid on the left side of the end zone. But again, I thought it was a really good gut check game for Ohio State, making that stand. I said this, a couple weeks ago. I think they needed, they kind of needed the Georgia moment. I think they needed something to kind of really galvanize them and be like, all right, like we've done this now. We know we can do it. Kind of flip a switch. And I'm curious to see where they go from here now. Not that I'm going to see much later today because they're playing freaking Purdue, but I'm curious to see how they react and how they go forward from here. And then Penn State's got a rebound. It probably eliminates them going to the Big Ten championship game, but at the same time, a good show. And I think everybody that's going to be in that room. I think they pretty much, as long as they don't lose again, they are absolutely dead set locked into the playoffs. So I think it was, even though it was a loss for Penn State, I think a lot of positives came out of it. And if you're Ohio State, Cottrell's going to talk about it here in a second, but I think you have to be really enthused about the way the last 3 minutes of that game went.
Yeah, for me, I think I got 2 big takeaways from that game. And it's one of them is if you take away, and I know you can't obviously take it away, but you take away the pick 6, the defense didn't give that up. The defense only gave up 6 points in this entire game. And obviously I know, they held them to 12 last year and things like that, but not giving up a touchdown following how the defense looked against Oregon. And I'm not saying that Penn State has the same caliber offense as Oregon, but it's the way that it looks. They were flying around. They put Caleb Downs inside the box a lot more. And just the activity, being able to send blitzers to Drew Aller, making him uncomfortable. DBs playing much better. They were really physical and the refs were letting them play in that game. But, Davis and Igbinosun played absolutely incredible in that football game. Denzel Burke still got beat on some plays where I still have question marks there, but I think as a whole, I feel a lot better about the defense. And it's not about the score, really. It's about how they looked actually on the field. And then on the flip side for the offense, 20 points, you still leave some to be desired there, but also look at kind of how it happened. You had a fumble on a play that really should have gave you 7 more points there. And And then ultimately you're moving the ball pretty successfully, throughout the field. You just couldn't put the ball into the end zone there. So I think for me, the offense, the way it looked, that offense that they had in that game was sustainable. And the big part of it was how you ended the game. So you get a stop on the goal line. That's a great look for the defense. That kind of goal line stance is how you win championships. And then you follow that up from the 1 yard line with about 5 minutes left, and you run the ball 11 straight times to run the clock out. That is how you win championships. You have the grind, you have the willpower. You tell your offensive lineman, hey, move these guys off the ball. We need to get there. Give us enough space to get there. And that's exactly what they did. So I think that's a big stepping stone for this team. I think this can be a turning point kind of moment. Last year, I thought the Penn State win was big, but I had a lot left to be desired from how the game looked. In this game, it was glimpses throughout it where I said, hey, that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. And when it got late, they started to run the ball with Will Howard. And I think if Ryan Day and Chip Kelly can find ways to integrate that more into the offense throughout the flow of the game, as opposed to when you absolutely just need it, I think that's going to make the running game more dangerous. I think it's going to help out the offensive line in terms of blocking because, teams can't just fly and crash through the middle. And ultimately, I think it's going to make the offense more successful because we know Will can run. We know Will's big. We know Will can get yardage on his own just because of how big he is. And so I think the last 5 minutes of that game really showed me everything I needed to see from this Ohio State group that I had some questions about.
It's weird who they reminded me of. It's weird.
Yeah, Ohio State, Penn State, it was an interesting game because the script from last year's game to this year's game was completely flipped as far as Penn State's offensive plan. Last year, Drew Aller threw the ball over 40 times, only completing was at 42% of them. And then this year, he only threw 21 times and ran the ball 10. So they really kind of try to control the clock, run the ball a lot more. Katron Allen had an absolutely fantastic game, really kind of the workhorse on the last drive that kind of helped drive them down the field to have a chance to score a game-tying touchdown in this game. But so Ohio State, they're one of the best teams in the country. It kind of showed that, and they needed to kind of have another gritty game. Like this is the type of game I want Oregon to have down the stretch, something that makes them kind of dig deep and grind it out. They had them earlier in the year, but it's nice to have that game at the end of the season when your backs are up against the wall. It's nice to have that kind of grind out win. So good for Ohio State kind of pulling that out, especially as both their toughest games on the season this year, both of them on the road, going to Autzen Stadium, obviously, and then going to Penn State, two of the loudest stadiums in the country. Let's check the stats here real quick. I know Oregon, they had at least 5 or 6 penalties on false starts caused by the noise. And this week, Ohio State did a fantastic job controlling the ball with controlling their penalties, only 2 penalties for 15 yards. And I think that's really important that they improved on that and allowed a hectic atmosphere that Penn State brings. So shout out to them on that. And that's it on recaps, y'all.
All right. That is it for recaps. We're to get into the college football playoff Tuesday night. The first rankings came out. 1 through 12, we got what we've been waiting for all year, and we're to go through them. Talk about where the people are being ranked, or teams being ranked. Sorry, excuse me. And then we're just gonna have a little fun, and we're gonna sim it through how we think it would play out based upon where everybody is right now. Obviously, these are not going to be the same by the time we get the final week of the season, but. Oregon State number 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Miami 4, Texas 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8, BYU 9, Notre Dame rounds out the top 10. Bama has the last automatic spot, and then Boise State obviously has the group of 5 spot at number 12. Still a lot of really good teams right there on the outside looking in. SMU we already talked about. A&M, very costly loss last week at South Carolina. Because if not, they firmly would have been in the top 10 somewhere. LSU, we already mentioned, playing for their life later tonight against Bama. We'll get into that a little bit. Ole Miss has that huge game with Georgia. They're pretty much in the same boat. They lose, they're out. Iowa State, super costly loss at home against a feisty Texas Tech team. Pittsburgh obviously got smoked by SMU.
And I mean,
State.
I think it's some teams on here too. Like, really, I mean, they're ranked right now, but they really don't have a shot at going to the playoff. Like Missouri's at 24, and I think we can agree that they're not deserving of being there. Louisville's at 22, and I get why they're there. They beat Clemson. Washington State at 21. It's going to be tough for them to make the playoff as an at large, because there's going to be teams with better resumes that are just flat out better than them. I mean, Washington State, it's great the season that they're having, but they're not really proving anything there. So, I mean, I think after, and it's funny because I really think after 19, you got a whole bunch of teams that won't make the playoff there, and that's including Colorado. I think Colorado has the path to, because they can get to the Big 12 championship game. But, I mean, a lot of that is going to be dependent on like Pitt, K-State, Colorado, all at this point, Iowa State as well. All four of them, it's going to be them winning
they all have to win
conference championship game.
Correct.
And we got some elimination games taking place today as well. So, I mean, it'll give them some breathing room because, whether it be LSU, Ole Miss, Bama, those really be the three. Georgia won't completely kill themselves a loss today. But, I mean, I think we're really only looking at about 15 or so teams that can make it into 12 spots.
I would agree with you. I would say it's down to probably 19 or 20, but I would pluck Pittsburgh and Iowa State probably out of that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's probably 5, 6, maybe 7 teams for one spot, 2 spots maybe. I think a spot's going to open up after the games today, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's go. Let's get over to the bracket of how it would if the college football playoff started this weekend, how it would look. Boise State, unfortunately for them, the Cinderella story. Well, I'm not even going to say that because they beat Oklahoma. You never know.
They were still a lot of people's preseason picks at that 12 spot. Like they were on a lot of people's brackets. So I don't know if we could really call them a Cinderella.
I mean, anyway that's going to come out of the group of 5 is going to technically be a Cinderella. But that being said, it's tough first round matchup. They got to go to the shoe. Man. What?
I said they got to go across the country. Alex's favorite thing.
Yeah, it's got to go across 2 time zones.
Well, it depends, man. Idaho doesn't do daylight savings time, so like it's going to be. Who knows how many times? I don't know.
True.
That's gonna be great. That's such a weird matchup. Like Boise State, Ohio State. Like that's almost as weird as Boise State, Oklahoma. You know what I mean? Like Boise State's their history of this football team. They've done the big upsets. They've beaten Oregon on season opener. They beat Oklahoma in a bowl game. I mean, this could be the moment where Ashton Jeanty like really, really shines. I mean, this is an interesting game.
You better hope and pray that happens in this scenario.
I know. I know Alex wants Ohio State to get eliminated, but
have a freaking cakewalk to the Natty.
As much as I would, in some regards, relish in that upset, I don't think it's going to happen. So I would have Ohio State moving on to face BYU. Next game, weird game. I mean, I think it's weird only because I don't think anybody thought we'd be talking about Indiana as the 8 seed right now, but playing Tennessee. That would be
at Tennessee.
No, wait.
Indiana's the 9 seed.
9. I thought they were 8. Okay. Yeah. So now you're going down to Knoxville. No, thank you on this one. I'm going to get Indiana a little bit, but I think Tennessee is just battle tested. Playing the SEC. Indiana is yet to play a good football team. I know they look great. I'm not saying they're not a good football team. They just have not been tested at all. They have not.
Alex. Yeah, go ahead, Bill. I thought you were done.
Oh, no, I'm taking Tennessee here. You guys can go whichever way.
Tell him why he's wrong, Alex, because I know you're on the right side here. I know you are.
Of course, I'm on the right. Of course, I'm on the right side, man. They're second in points per game in the country at 46.5 points. They have the 7th best defense, only allowing less than 2 touchdowns per game. It's 13.7 points per game. They said they beat a Nebraska team that was on an all-time high, 56-7. And I would say Nebraska is one of the better, probably better half of defenses in the Big Ten, and they absolutely destroyed that defense. Tennessee, when they played, they looked really good at the preseason when they were playing non-conference opponents. The second they got into SEC play, they instantly struggled against top defenses. And what does Indiana have? A top defense. I think Tennessee, congratulations for getting a home game. Congratulations for overachieving and making the college football playoff if this comes to fruition. But Indiana is going to come to town, and Indiana is going to whip that ass. I don't think it's going to be that close of a game at all. I think Tennessee is a year away. Next year, I think if this game happens, different scenario. But this year is the right time, right situation, and Indiana cakewalks in this.
And Bill, I understand your point about Indiana not facing anybody. Well, this would be, and again, I know things would move around a little bit, but this would be after Indiana plays an Ohio State team, and if win or lose, they'd be either 11-1 or 12-0, and they'd either be going to the Big Ten championship game or their only loss against Ohio State. So at that point, they'd have a big time game on their resume. They know what that feels like, and they have to come to Columbus, so they know what it'd be like to go into a hostile environment. And
we're talking as it sits now. Obviously, if they're 12-0 or 11-1, they lose to Ohio State by 3 points. Obviously, my mind would change.
Of course,
but as of right now. Let me go through this real quick, and either one of you could stop me when they play a good football team.
That's. I know. I already know we're about to go. They have not played anybody.
Bill, everybody. No, it's not. It's not the problem. You gave your stats. It's my turn. It's my turn now.
I didn't even get to finish.
You can give me all. Yeah, you want to know why they're always giving up 2 touchdowns a game, Alex? Because they're playing Division II schools that can't score. No shit.
Dude.
Big deal.
They're beating teams by 33 points that they're supposed to beat by 33 points. Like they're not having like missteps. They're not. Their offense is smooth. They are not.
How are you going to have a misstep against Western Illinois, Alex?
Okay,
I didn't even know they had a football team. It's all just look at this.
But look at the Oregon-Idaho score.
FIU. That's you guys. You guys
right.
Correct.
We're the number 1 team in the country, and we had a problem with a no-name team.
Who did you play after that?
Boise State.
Okay, then who did you beat them?
Well, obviously.
Okay, who'd you play 2 weeks after or 3 weeks after that?
I don't know. I gotta go double check. I'm getting all my weeks mixed up, man. You're freaking me out.
Whatever week is. Ohio State, another debatably the best team in the country. Name me anybody that Indiana's played that is even remotely close to making anything in the playoff or
okay, so we understand that point, but again, I've seen what Tennessee looked like against teams like Kentucky. I've seen them take a loss to an Arkansas team. I saw them go to overtime with Florida, who was battling back and forth between 2 different quarterbacks.
Arkansas will be undefeated with Indiana's schedule.
That's fine. Arkansas, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But if Arkansas beat Tennessee, in that game, what's to say Indiana can't beat Tennessee in that game?
I also saw Tennessee beat Arkansas, and you lose. I see Tennessee beat Alabama,
and Alabama might not make the playoff. We gotta see what happens today.
And my point is, Indiana hasn't played anybody that's remotely in that discussion.
I get that, but you can only
but they can't make their schedule. But how they play those games is what determines how good they are. And they're beating their team by 33 points a game.
Hear me out as well. If anybody should know about this, it should be you. Because last year, Michigan didn't play anybody until the back half of their schedule. So, and we knew what Michigan had. Like, obviously, it's different because, in 2021 and 2022, we saw the success that Michigan had. But to that point, like later on in the year, you could say, oh, well, Michigan didn't play anybody all year. And Michigan shouldn't be considered one of the best teams in the country, but we saw it come to fruition. Like if you watch the games, like you can see Indiana has it rolling on offense. And Coach Szn, love the guy. I've loved him since he was at James Madison, of course. He wins at every level. So there's nothing in my mind to say, hey, Indiana can't be ready for this moment, especially on the other side of the field. You have a freshman quarterback that I've seen not look nothing like he did in the non-conference portion of their schedule. If you're telling me that Indiana can go in that game and all they have to do is score 24, 27 points, there is no way in hell you're telling me that wouldn't be possible.
I think they have to score more than that. I also think, again, they have not played against a team that they've even faced a quarterback even in remotely in Nico's category. Not
Dylan
one.
Raiola?
Who's better right now?
I mean, Nico, but
At that time,
they're
3
in the
weeks
same
ago.
they're in the
That's
same
fine.
ballpark.
You know what? We're gonna leave. You guys take Indiana. I'm taking Tennessee. We'll leave this alone. Depending on what happens later this afternoon in that game, I might have to do this show by myself next week because I'm going to be unbearable when we sign on to this. When we sign on to the show next week, just letting you know. Next game, Alabama, Texas. I would assume you're picking Texas, Joe, because you just said you don't think Alabama's even making the playoff.
I said it's possible that they're not making the playoff, is what I said. With that said, yes, I am picking Texas. I think Texas is the better football team, and I mean, I think that it is what it is. Alabama has shown me that they don't have the consistency defensively, and they don't have an identity. I think against Texas, we know they can throw the ball down the field, and without all the running backs they lost at the beginning of the season, they're still able to run the ball as well. So I like Texas in this one. It'd be a home game. It'd be in Austin. I think they take care of business.
In this one, I think that Texas, actually Alabama, I think pays Texas back for last year beating them in Alabama. I think that Texas the last couple of weeks has not been the Texas that we expected. I think a 3-point win at Vanderbilt, and yes, I know this is not your mom and dad's Vanderbilt. This is Vanderbilt team is fantastic, especially at home. Also, 15-point. Yeah, exactly. Yes, I'm aware. Thank you, sir. But also the what is it? They lost to Georgia by 15. They absolutely looked completely out of sync in that game. There were parts of that Vanderbilt game where they did not look like a national championship contender. And then they're going to play a Florida team on the road, at home. And I think that Florida, if DJ Lagway plays, I think is going to give him another tough task. And I think that this Texas team is just not really clicking on all cylinders. I think that Alabama goes in there and takes care of business, and I think Alabama wins.
I'm gonna take Quinn in that offense at home. Alabama's back end of their defense has just been way too inconsistent for me. I think they probably get a turnover somewhere because Quinn has been a little shaky at times, but I think too many playmakers on the outside, and I think Texas defense just gets stops when they have to. So I like Texas at home there. And this one is if you're a blue blood, this would be the main event for you. I would hope this would be at night. I would hope this would be the night game. Notre Dame going into Penn State for a whiteout.
Finally get a road game.
Finally. I would love Penn State in this matchup. I really don't need to break it down so much. I think Penn State would handle Notre Dame.
Agreed. I think they would as well. I think defensively they have what it takes to slow down that Notre Dame offense. And then offensively, I think they'd be able to run the ball with a lot of success against that Notre Dame team. So I like Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame to I like Penn State to cover. I was going to say I think Notre Dame could potentially keep it close, but I would like Penn State. Wherever that spread was at, I'd like them to cover. I think Penn State would handily take care of business against Notre Dame.
See, I think this would be an extremely low-scoring game with two really good defenses and two quarterbacks that are really kind of iffy through the air. Obviously, Riley Leonard, you know what he can do on the ground, kind of inconsistent. Drew Aller, they're running the ball a lot more. And again, against top defenses, as we saw against Ohio State, can be a little inconsistent as well. So I think this would be a low-scoring game. I'm talking like both teams under 20 points. And I think whoever had the ball last would probably win on a game-winning field goal. I honestly think Notre Dame. I think this is an opportunity. Ever since that loss to Northern Illinois, Notre Dame I feel like has been clicking on a little bit of a different cylinder on offense, and I really like what Notre Dame has to offer. I think Penn State, James Franklin loses this game. I think he makes a dumb blitz call that opens up something on the outside for Notre Dame to make a big play at the end of the game, get him in field goal range. I think Notre Dame actually wins this game. James Franklin loss.
So
Justin,
I know we're starting to come up against. We got 40 minutes left for the rest of the show here. I would just ask you guys, based on who you picked to move forward, how would you see the rest of it breaking down? We don't have to go through game by game per se, but like for me, I look at Ohio State, BYU, and I'm like, okay, Ohio State, I think they take care of business there. I will look at Oregon versus Indiana. I think Oregon takes care of business there. I look at Miami versus Texas. In my opinion, I think Texas take care of business there. I think their offense be a little bit too much for the Miami offense. And in the Penn State Georgia game, call me crazy, I think Penn State would move on. So in that scenario for me, it would be Penn State versus Texas on the bottom half, and I think that'd be a banger matchup. And I'd probably lean Texas. I think offensively they probably put up too many points. And then on top half, it'd be a rematch of Ohio State and Oregon, and you know how I'm picking that matchup. So you're looking at Ohio State versus Texas in the championship game, and I think Ohio State would come out on top over Texas. But love to hear how you guys would like kind of break that down here, just because I know how much is going to change. So that's why just felt like we probably didn't need to go through the next matchups, but want to know how you guys see it.
I would have Ohio State over BYU, obviously. Of Oregon beating Tennessee. I'm same with you. I would have Texas beating Miami. That Penn State Georgia game is that's a tough one.
Are the second round games neutral sites?
Yes.
I couldn't remember.
For some reason, I just think Georgia would pull that out. But that being said, I would love to see Penn State move on there somehow.
Then what about the rest? So you have Georgia versus Texas, and then Ohio State and Oregon.
Georgia, I actually think Texas beats Georgia. I like Texas's offense out of all four units there. I think Ohio State beats Oregon on a neutral field. And I would have Ohio State beating Texas.
Okay. So I would have Ohio State and BYU. I wish it was at BYU so we could test Bill's theory. But with that being said, the way that BYU runs their offense, very similar in play style to the way Oregon runs their offense, and Oregon was able to have a lot of success against Ohio State's defense. I would really like to pick BYU here. Obviously, I'm not delusional, though, so Ohio State would win that matchup. Control almost had a heart attack up there. And then I had Oregon versus Indiana, which I think is a matchup that we didn't get to see during the regular season, and might be in play for the Big Ten championship, depending on how the regular season plays out. But if it played out like this, Oregon and Indiana had not played, that'd be a great matchup. I think Oregon wins against Indiana. I would have Miami against Alabama in this situation. And I have Miami's offense being way, way, way too much for Alabama's to keep up with. Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban, and I think that Miami just has all the right pieces right now to kind of make a really nice push at the end of the season. So I think Miami wins that matchup. And then I have Notre Dame versus Georgia, and I think that's not even close. I think that's probably a 14-point spread at kickoff, if not more, and I think Georgia covers that pretty handily. So I got Georgia versus Miami, and I got Oregon versus Ohio State. And when it comes to Georgia versus Miami, I think that, the way that Brock Bowers, I almost said Brock Bowers, the way that Georgia's quarterback has been playing, I don't know why I'm blanking his name right now. The way Carson Beck has thrown had 3 games in a row with 2 or more interceptions. I mean, that is just not a recipe for success. And I need to see him, fix that going into the college football playoff. But if he turns the ball over to Miami, there is no way they're not scoring. There is no lead that is safe against this Miami team. And I think Miami actually beats Georgia and makes it to the college football playoff. And then we got Oregon versus Ohio State, neutral field or not. Oregon Duck fans travel. Oregon Duck fans make noise everywhere. And I think that Oregon takes care of Ohio State in another close game. And then we have Oregon versus Mario Cristobal in a revenge match, coach versus old team. And I think Oregon takes care of business. I think Cam Ward gets a taste of the Oregon Duck defense like he had at Washington State. And I think Damian Martinez gets another taste of the dirt because of Oregon, just like he did when he played at Oregon State. And I think that Oregon takes care of business, wins national championship against Miami.
How did I know you're gonna pick Miami to go to the national championship? Like it's
there, man.
You
Recipe's there.
Yeah, the recipe of you just want to stick it to Mario Cristobal. Don't worry, someone else is gonna do it for you. He won't make it there.
There's no better place to do it.
Oh boy. All right, so that is it for this week. Like I said, we're gonna have fun with this every week. It's most likely going to change after this week. So,
well, hold on a second, yeah, because we got Alabama's got a ranked matchup, which we're going to preview. What else we got that's crazy today? We
Georgia,
got
Ole Miss.
Georgia, Ole Miss. I mean, yeah, there's gonna be some movement, 100% next week. I'm excited for it.
But the team that Bill just hates, apparently. That's
Don't
where
hate.
that's where we got to start.
Not hating. I'm just as usual, just pointing out facts and being unbiased. And I'll tell you why there's going to be a spot open, because Michigan's going to win this football game. You can roll and the funny thing was, I literally just looked this up as you guys were talking. As bad as Michigan is this year, defensively efficiency, they're still better than Indiana. They're still the 44th ranked team in the country, which is wild based on FPI and everything else. I'll give you this. Who do you think before Indiana, what do you think the highest strength of schedule is of the top 12 teams?
Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State.
The highest?
Ohio State is 1. Ohio State is 1.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that.
No, like, what do you think the next lowest one is before
the
Indiana?
next low probably has to be BYU, I'd imagine.
Nope.
Indiana. Oh, it'd be over Indiana.
I don't know. Indiana is the lowest.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, who's right before them? You said it would be. I mean, I figured Indiana would be the least.
Not Boise State. Boise State's 60th.
So where's Indiana?
Indiana's 100.
Yeah, have the number 1 team on your schedule.
104th is their strength of schedule as of right now. The next closest is Notre Dame, another team that we chapped for not playing anybody this year. But that being said, it's fine. I think this game is going to be close. I don't think this is going to be Indiana, Michigan State. I don't think it's going to be anything of that. I actually think Michigan is going to go into Bloomington later tonight and win this football game. That defense is going to slow that offense down. Michigan will be able to run the ball against Indiana. I promise you they're going to be held to like 20 points underneath their average. And again, after this is over, you probably have to mute the group chat. It's going to be a long week till we get back on this show on Saturday. Indiana's not going to be in the college football playoff next week. Clearly taking this and pick them, obviously. I think Michigan, just at what they do, how they've improved the last 3 weeks, I don't think Indiana's anywhere near as good as they've shown. I think they're good. I just don't think they're the number 8 team in the country. They have not played anything over an average football team yet this year. Average. I think Michigan wins. I'll say 27-23.
Well, I mean, I think all the numbers, they definitely sound good, but I look at it like this. You can talk about Michigan and their ability to run the ball and how good the defense looks, and I don't have much of an argument for that. I'll tell you, Dylan Raiola is better than any quarterback on the Michigan roster by 50 points in my book. Like if there's a certain number that you need, I'd say Dylan Raiola would score within the exact same offense 50 more points than whatever quarterback on Michigan would score. And if you were able to hold him in company to 7 points, and not just him, but a Matt Rule and him combination of offense to 7 points, then I think you're going to be able to slow down that Michigan offense. And it's pretty predictable. It's run the ball, throw the ball to Colston Loveland. And I love Colston. Colston's a great player. But at some point, you put 2 on him and say, hey, Davis, you got to beat us. Alex, if you're in the game, you're not going to run the ball. You have to throw it. You have to beat us. And I mean, I think that game plan is pretty simple. As far as stopping the run, of course, it's not as easy as just, hey, get ball, see ball, get ball. Michigan do have some hogs up front. They do have a couple talented running backs there. But with all that said, I think if Indiana is able to score 21 points in this game, this is an Indiana win all day long. So for me, I'm rolling with Indiana here. I think they probably fall just short of that spread. I see it being a 10 to 13 point game in Indiana's favor. But I think Indiana takes care of business at home.
Yeah, I was looking through the lines. I was trying to find a way to get on the coattails of Michigan for this one. but the numbers don't lie. I mean, Indiana is 9-0 for the first time in school history. Michigan has won 27 of the last 28. But when you look at the offensive, the offense or the lack thereof offense at Michigan and the high-powered offense of Indiana, no matter who they've played, I just don't know if Michigan can score enough points to kind of keep up, because I think Indiana drops at least 28 points against Michigan's defense. I think, what, Bill, you're right. They may hold them 10 points below their average, but 10 points below their average is still 32 points. And I don't think Michigan can put up more than 21 points against anybody right now. And besides Michigan State, they haven't put up 21 points since they played Minnesota 5 weeks ago. So I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up with the offense, especially on the road. I think Indiana kind of takes care of business. I think this is a two possession game. I think it's more like 31-17. I think Michigan does find some success, but I don't think it's really ever in question.
So yeah, you see it just like I see it, Alex. 2 possession football game, and defense. Michigan's defense looks okay, but Indiana's too much offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it is. Unfortunately. Where we go
next up?
The Bayou.
Battle of the Bayou. So number 11 Alabama going down to LSU Death Valley against the LSU Tigers, 15th ranked team in the country. This is an elimination game, no matter how you slice it. The loser of this game, their season is over. They'll still go to a nice bowl game because they're going to be both, obviously both huge name programs. Their shot of the college football playoff is gone. This is a 7:00 start, like I said, down in Death Valley. Environment will be hostile. Every year the rankings come out of the hardest place to play. It's either this or Penn State every year. Night game. That being said, I'm going Bama here. I'll take the better quarterback. I think Alabama, offensively, I think they're going to get back to their bread and butter. I think Kellen DeBoer is going to rush Jalen Milroe a little bit more, run everything off that play action pass and get him in a rhythm. Nussmeier for LSU, 7 interceptions in the last 4 games. He just has not looked as sharp as he did at the beginning of the season. He's starting to go backwards a little bit. LSU defense is starting to get a little bit leaky. I think Alabama scores enough points. I think it's a close game. I forget what the score prediction I picked Wednesday was, but I'll take Bama like 31-28, 31-27, something like that.
Yeah, I really like this. I think this game is going to be fantastic. Alabama has only had 3 games on the road this season. They're 1-2 in those games. Obviously, the 2 losses coming to Vanderbilt and Tennessee. And then obviously LSU is coming off a 10-point blown lead. Where Garrett Nussmeier threw 3 interceptions, and A&M absolutely controlled the line of scrimmage, ran the ball just under 50 times for 242 yards. And I think that's exactly what Alabama is going to try to do against this LSU team. Is they're going to try to control the clock, force turnovers when they're able to, and like I said, I think this is the game where Jalen Milroe has over 100 yards rushing. I think they're going to do old school up down your throat football. And I think Alabama is going to win this game. I do think it's a little bit lower scoring because they want to keep the ball out of Garrett Nussmeier's hands, because he does have that potential of putting 35 points up every single game. He's got that kind of potential, even though he doesn't always live up to it. So I think Alabama is going to keep the ball on the ground, and I think it's a lower scoring game. I'm thinking 21-18. Alabama takes care of business. I think it's more like a 21-10. LSU, gets 8 points with 2-point conversion late in the fourth quarter, but I think it's a low scoring game.
Alex, I agree with your outcome. I disagree with how we get there. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think this is going to be reminiscent of Jaden Daniels and Jalen Milroe, of years past. I think Bama's defense is, you talk about LSU's defense kind of being leaky, Bill. I think Bama's showing you that they're very susceptible to give up the big play as well. And when you got Kyron Lacey and Aaron Anderson on the other side of you with Garrett Nussmeier, yeah, Garrett may throw some picks there, but he'll also dot you up and take the top off of the defense. So I think LSU will be able to move the ball efficiently against that Alabama secondary, who we've seen struggle throughout the year. I mean, you saw what Georgia was able to do in the second half, and we see Georgia really doesn't have that one big weapon. And we saw, again, just apples to apples here, you saw how fast Georgia was able to come back, even though Carson Beck threw 3 interceptions. So I think you can kind of live and die with the turnovers there, as long as you're moving the ball efficiently down the field. And I think you're going to see a tight game, but ultimately here, Bill, you said you were going with a better quarterback. I'll make it clear as day. I'm going with a better coach. I'm going with Kalen DeBoer because I know if this game gets tight, he will know what to call, and Brian Kelly will not. Brian Kelly's going to go to the press conference afterwards, and he's going to throw one of his guys under the bus, whether it be a missed assignment or a lack of play recognition. It won't be Brian Kelly's fault. It'll be one of those guys on the field that he ultimately puts the blame on, because I've seen this song and dance before. So in a big time game, I trust Kalen DeBoer way more than I trust Brian Kelly, and I think Ryan Williams has a big game in this one. I see this being a 35-31 kind of football game, but I think it's high scoring. I think it's probably the most entertaining game of the day.
All right. Last but not least, number 3, Georgia. Traveling down to Oxford. Number 16, Ole Miss, running ribs. Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin. Not quite an elimination game for Georgia. Absolutely elimination game for Ole Miss. Could be. I mean, could lead to the ultimate demise. I just don't think if they lose this one, I don't think they fall out of the top 12. Ole Miss, if they lose, they are 100% done.
Facts.
Backs against the wall. Ole Miss, I don't want to call them Jekyll and Hyde. We already talked about Georgia's inconsistency earlier in the game with Carson Beck. Ole Miss had a kind of couple very vanilla 2 or 3 games, and then last week put up I don't know what the final million
515 yards, 6 tutties.
So, did Lane find a different gear for that offense? Is that what we're going to see later tonight? Or were they just playing somebody really bad? A combination of both. That being said, I think Georgia's going to be able to move the ball against that defense. I know Jackson Dart has had a pretty good year, coming off a great game, obviously. Probably going to play with a lot of confidence, but Georgia putting a rivalry game behind them, traveling down to Ole Miss. A little bit of again, it's kind of a gut check, kind of like Ohio State had last week. This is a big game for Georgia as well. I don't think they're going to rest on the laurels of, hey, if we lose, we're still okay. That's not how Kirby Smart's going to prepare these kids for this game. So I think this is a great game as well. SEC, first couple weekends of fall, this is what you dream about. I like Georgia going to Oxford to win, though. Close game, very entertaining. I'll say 33-28 Georgia.
Alex, I know these are your boys. I was gonna let you go. If you let me go, I'll go. I'll make it quick.
Go real quick, because I'm gonna go on a tangent, so you should just go.
That's fine. I'll make it quick here. Give you some time here to go on your tangent. But for me, I think this game is simple. I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about Carson Beck and the turnovers. I promise you, if he throws 3 interceptions in this football game, you can book an Ole Miss win. As much as I talk about, I don't like Lane Kiffin. I don't give a damn who's coaching this Ole Miss team. If you give them 3 extra possessions, that is going to lead to an Ole Miss win with Jackson Dart at the helm. Last week, obviously, we talked about the big time performance they had offensively, but Ole Miss has got really a 4-headed monster at the receiver position between Harris, Lee, Watkins, and Wells. They all can beat you vertical, and they all have big playability. And so I think Georgia's really, that defense has shown you that they're able to give up a big play as well. I can see Trey Harris having a monster game in this one against that Georgia secondary. Malachi Starks is good back there, but he's really the only one that you trust to handle his business back there. So for me, I think this game is going to be rather tight. I do think Carson Beck turns the ball over, and it will lead to extra possessions for Ole Miss. But ultimately here, same kind of mindset as what I had in the Bama and LSU game. I'm going with the coach I trust more. The game gets tight. I trust Kirby Smart to make the adjustments and make the right plays to put Georgia in a position to win the football game. So I think this is probably somewhere in the middle of the road in terms of scoring. Go like 27-24. Georgia wins by a field goal and ultimately puts it into the college football playoff hopes of Ole Miss.
Look, I'm going to admit it, all right? Season's on the edge for Ole Miss. They're hanging on by fingertips on the edge of that cliff. And, they've had 2 3-point losses, to LSU and Kentucky that really have kind of put this season in a tailspin for them. In Georgia's offensive line, they've allowed 1.25 sacks, so 1.25 sacks per game, okay? And this is where I believe that the game is going to be won and lost, is at that line of scrimmage. The offensive line for Georgia needs to put up the best protection they've put up all season, because Ole Miss is averaging over 4 sacks per game and over 10 tackles for loss per game. And the way Carson Beck's looked behind that pocket, 3 interceptions last week, and really he did not get pressured a lot last week and still found a way to throw 3 interceptions. I think Ole Miss is averaging 10 tackles for loss per game and 4 sacks. If they're able to get that kind of pressure against Carson Beck, they're going to force those early and often, and that's going to lead to turnovers. And just like Cottrell said, if Georgia does, or if Ole Miss is able to force turnovers against Carson Beck, then they're going to be in trouble. What Georgia needs to do is they need to control the line of scrimmage and they need to control that clock. But here's the problem. Georgia has the 97th ranked rushing attack in the country, unlike previous years, only 132 yards per game. So they are relying on Carson Beck to throw the ball a lot. And when you throw the ball a lot, you give your 3 and outs, and not a lot of clock is used, and Ole Miss gets the ball that many more times. Jackson Dart is just coming off, like I said, a 515-yard performance with 6 touchdowns last week, an absolute throttling of Arkansas. The offense looks fantastic. It looks ready to roll, and they know that every single game from here on out is their college football playoff. So they're going to absolutely take care of business today. This is the game that I think Ole Miss really solidifies himself as back in the race, and I think Ole Miss takes care of business by 2 possessions. I think it's going to be a 42-28 game. I think Ole Miss takes care of business. Get that look off your face, because it's happening. Ole Miss is taking care of business. I don't care about Lane Kiffin. I'm looking at Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's going to lead him to victory. He's in a roll from last week's. He's going to carry that momentum.
It's almost like you read my mind, because regardless of, I think I don't make that face if Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin are the 2 head coaches. Like, if you just put these 2 football teams on the field and you say that, I'd be like, okay, I can see that happening. Lane Kiffin has never beaten anybody by 2 possessions in a big time
until
football game.
Until he does.
You need to talk to a Tennessee fan or a USC fan or hell, anybody at this point. Anybody that has been a fan of a team that Lane Kiffin has coached, they will let you know his disappointments there. I mean, you should be used to it, like when you had Mario. And how Mario let you down, but some kids don't learn putting their hand on the stove.
Just think back to last year when you lost to Washington twice. That's every fan of every team that Lane Kiffin's ever coached.
See, Alex, he's making it personal. I wasn't even trying to go there. I was just saying.
Alex is taking plenty of shots today. So
no, Bill, that was you last week watching Oregon slam that ball down your throat. Whip that Michigan ass in Michigan, but hey,
enjoy it. Enjoy the off year.
Look, bro, you're just sad because Northwestern's going to beat you, so it's fine.
Oh, not sad.
Next,
this is the most
Bill, calm. It's not that early.
It's the most calm you're ever going to see me with Michigan being 5-4. You want to know why that is? Like I said, this is a throwaway year. I don't care.
Oh my gosh, it's funny how when they're not in the race, he doesn't care.
Did I not say that? See,
it's okay to care.
Let me talk to the other fellow national champion here. let the adults in the room.
That's all you got. That's all you got.
Cottrell could understand what I'm talking about here. You wouldn't understand because you don't know the actual the joy of seeing your team hold up the national championship and realize that can hold you over for a couple years. You're just be like, damn, Washington beat us again. Damn. Oh, man, Washington beat me again. Dang.
I can't wait till last week of the season and Oregon beats Washington 95-7 to solidify.
I will say this. As somebody who's, again, I don't have a dog in this fight between you guys today. I said it before the year. I knew Michigan would be worse this year. I still had them going to the playoff. I thought they would lose 3 games this year and find a way to make it in. With that said, obviously we know that that's not going to be the case. After you win that national championship, as much as you want to win the following years, you get like a 5-year just debrief of where nothing matters because you won the national championship. And this is only year 1. So like if I'm in Bill's spot, no matter how good Ohio State would be, no matter how bad they would be, I'd be like, all right, well, we got a shot to win another one this year. Or on the flip side, it'd be like, I don't care about this year. We just won one last year. You can't win every year. Like you literally get both sides of the coin when you're in that position. So I I'm expecting I was expecting it. I'd be the same way, admittedly. Alex, if your team wins this year, you will understand and you'll be the same way for as long as we do the show. Oregon could be 0-12 for the next 4 years, and you'd be like,
I would
guess
not
what?
be
You won't
happy.
care.
You
No,
won't
you
care.
won't, you won't care.
It's not the
Yes, I
point.
will.
That's not the
It's
point.
not the point. It's not
You
the
might
point.
be upset. You might be upset in the moment, but if I say, "Oh, well, Ohio State just beat the hell out of you this year," you'd be like, "Well, we won a national championship in 2024, and you guys haven't sniffed one since 2014." Like it's just like you get that feeling. Is all I'm saying.
Well, I guess I'll get to enjoy that feeling after this year. So thank you for giving me something to look forward to.
We'll see. Long
All
way
right,
to
well,
go. All right.
got
I
pick
think
'em.
that's it. Oh, yeah.
Pick 'em.
Some eliminator.
Pick them.
Call it a day.
Pick them. I'll rip through these. Control will too. First off, let's see. Vanderbilt.
Hey, I'm in the lead of
You
the
are?
pick'em.
That you are, my friend. That you are.
Let's go. It never happens. Okay, sorry,
You're fine. Number 4, Miami at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech at home plus 10.5. It looks even more so now. The starting quarterback's going to play. I love Georgia Tech at home plus 10.5. Vanderbilt at home plus 6.5 against South Carolina. I don't know how many good teams they have to beat or stay in the game with. I'm pretty sure if they can, damn near beat Texas, they can lose to South Carolina by, less than a touchdown. Love South Carolina there. Told you, it's going to pick it, not shying away from it. Where do you go? Where do you go?
You know, Yeller made his appearance.
Damn, old Yeller had to go for a walk. Michigan plus 14.5 in Indiana all day. Book it. Probably going to sprinkle. Probably going to put a crazy parlay together and just take Michigan outright on the money line plus 450. Superdog. I made a joke about it Wednesday. It still holds true. Ohio State is going to dismantle Purdue today. Don't get me wrong. 5.5 touchdowns is a lot for this late in the season for the Big Ten. And I fully expect Will Howard, Smith, Junkins, Travion, they are going to be in street clothes very early in the second half of this game. Day is going to pull all those guys out and make sure nobody gets hurt, nobody gets nicked coming down the stretch. I think Purdue backdoors this somehow and probably steals me a couple of Superdog points. They could lose 59-0 too, so don't get me wrong. Again, this is a shot in the dark.
For me, like you said, Bill, I'll go pretty quick here. Hopefully, Alex is back with us. But
I've been on Alex so much I made him quit.
Been on a slide here, so I'm going with good football team this week, guys. So I like all favorites. Cincinnati minus 4.5 at home versus West Virginia. West Virginia has been a very underwhelming team so far throughout this year. And Cincinnati, I told you guys at the beginning of the goddamn year that they were going to be a solid little football team, and that's exactly what they've been. So I like them to take care of business at home to cover the 5.5 there. Second game, I like Army minus 5.5 on the road against North Texas. I love that number because so far throughout this year, Army has not played in one possession football game at all, this season. So I think them taking care of business against North Texas will be pretty easy there. So I love them to cover there. And then the last game, I like Colorado minus 3.5 at Texas Tech. Texas Tech is coming off of a huge emotional win on the road against Iowa State. Colorado's coming off of a bye week. So I think you get the letdown of an emotional high with a team that's focused. And with that Iowa State loss, they know that they have a shot at going to the Big 12 championship game and everything is in front of them. I think Colorado goes into that game and they take care of business. And then the last game I like for Superdog, Arkansas State plus 16.5 on the road at Louisiana. This is for first place in the Sun Belt West. And I think Arkansas State is going to give Louisiana everything that they can handle. I think this is a team that understands that, hey, if we win this football game, we'd be in the driver's seat of going to our conference championship game. So I like Arkansas State to not only cover that 16.5, I think they put up a real fight to even win that football game outright. So those are my picks for the week. Alex, I'm glad you're back. Go ahead, run through yours.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be back. For some reason, my laptop disconnected on me. All right, so first off, we got Iowa State coming off their first loss of the season last week. I think they're coming for blood at Kansas. Kansas has severely underperformed this year, so I got Iowa State at the -2.5 mark. I think Iowa wins this by 2 possessions. I don't think it's even a close game. Next up, we got South Carolina at Vandy. The fact that South Carolina is 6-point favorites is absolutely insane to me, especially if Vanderbilt's played at home, beating Bama and took Texas down to the wire. I think that trend continues, and I think Vanderbilt plays South Carolina tough and maybe come out with a win. Hopefully, the drama that was released last night doesn't affect Daniel Pavia at all. And then I got the Army at North Texas game. Here's the thing about the Army offense. They're built to play from ahead, control the clock, control the ball. They're not built to play from behind. North Texas has scored 37 points or more 5 weeks in a row. They have a top 10 offense in the top number 6 offense in the country and number 2 passing attack. I think North Texas is going to be too much for Army to handle this week, and I think that North Texas will actually win outright. But I'm picking them to cover the +3. Like I said, I just don't think Army is built to play from behind. And I think North Texas jumps out early. I think this is the best passing offense that Army has seen this season, and they're going to be able to put points up against them. And then for my super dog, this one I thought long and hard about, and I'm choosing Florida State at Notre Dame at +26.5. Florida State and Coach Norvell will be playing for the future today. All right, not only Norvell's future, not only the University of Florida's future, but the future of the commitments at this university. This game has bigger impact than just today. This will impact how Florida State's next 5 years of college football is going to be. Because if you beat Notre Dame and you finish up 2-9 or 2-10, 3-9, and you beat a ranked top 10 Notre Dame team, this kind of saves the season. So Norvell needs this win in order to kind of keep his job. And I think that Florida State's going to play their asses off, and they're going to cover that 26.5 point spread.
Alex, you picked the game directly against me. I don't even care about that. Picking Florida State just feels like
I know
sacrilegious.
I threw up. I threw up thinking about it. All right?
As you should.
I also feel strongly about it. Okay, I feel strongly about this. I feel strongly about it. All right.
Hey, I'll take your word for it.
I'm not saying they're going to win, but I'm just saying I don't. 20, like I said, 20. It's a lot. 26.5 is a lot.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get over to the mountain. That would definitely change some things for Notre Dame on that mountain. That might just boot them completely off.
I'm not picking Florida State to win. I'm just picking them to cover. I'm just saying like their mindset going into that game is going to be like, we're playing for the future of this university. Like if they beat Notre Dame, the university looks different to commits than it does to, So I mean that's why I think this game is bigger.
Alex, can I make a request for next week? Just one small one. Oh well, never mind.
I'm just kidding. Yes, you can. I added Colorado because of you. All right. So
hey, I appreciate that.
All right. What's your request?
So next week, on the left-hand side, I love the picture of Bama and LSU. But next week, can we also get Bama and LSU? The winner of that game being Rafiki and holding up Simba, like ready to throw off the other one off the mountain. Like, can we get that happen?
I think we might be able to make that happen.
All right, cool. That's all I ask. That's all I ask.
But no, as you can see, the mountain is now based off the college football playoff. Kansas State, Clemson, both, like I said, their seasons are dwindling by a thread, taking L's, and they're both in the helicopter. Nobody besides Missouri's in the ground, but that's not new news. Nobody's been added, but I think we might be opening up a couple spots after this week.
Well, either Bama or LSU are going on that blank tombstone right there for next week.
It's already ready to go.
We might have to put one on the mountain for Ole Miss if they lose that game too.
Correct. Graveyard is getting is getting full. It's filling up quickly.
Those worms are getting fed.
That's right. Reserve your plots before we run out of room. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is as you get further into the season, higher up this mountain, you start passing the last base camp, and then like I said, it's a long way down, man. It's a long way down. I see green boots somewhere eventually, but it's we're gonna be down to the survival of the fittest here soon. These teams are going to start dropping like flies relatively soon. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Only one little team's going to get put up on the top of that summit. Alex, I think, feels really strongly it's going to be his team. I know Cottrell feels the same way.
So do you about Cottrell's team.
I still have like 5 teams in play. It's wonderful.
I guess that's the beauty of your team getting eliminated is now you can pick whatever other teams you want.
The best part was we went over this on Wednesday again. Gene's like, "You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that." I was like, "Excuse me?" I was like, "You do it every year." So yeah, I mean, I'm good. I still got BYU in play. I got Penn State in play, and I have Ohio State and Georgia in play still.
Ohio State, jeez. It's funny because at least like for us, like we kind of pick our like season picks, like our darlings. Like at the beginning of the season, like I said, I was strongly about SMU. I felt I was strong about Kansas State. You know, obviously you guys are both about Texas A&M. Like so, it's nice that like we kind of declare like who we feel special about, like before the year starts. Like last year was San Jose State. They weren't in contention for college football playoff, but like that was a team I was like watching last year was San Jose State. So I just love how like we each kind of like pick point teams that are different than our norm to kind of like spend time to talk about.
And the crazy part is that I was literally on the Colorado wave. Like I thought they had it. And then like, I was like, you know what? I'm off.
Were you early?
They don't have the Russian attack. Even before, like when we did our last show last year and I gave my too early prediction of the playoff, I had Colorado in there. And you know what I said? I said, hey, they don't have enough. I reevaluated myself and said they don't have enough. And then what they do, they came out and they said, hey, we figured it out. We've gotten an identity and we're going to give ourselves a chance. And then I know with Bill, he's been all over BYU as well. So
that's true.
You're 100% right, Alex. It is fun having our darling picks for sure.
But I think that's kind of it. I think we're going to have a lot less teams towards the top of the mountain. But I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And like I said, we're getting into the home stretch here. You know, before you know it, we're going to be previewing playoff games on campus, which I mean, just for as long and you know as great as a fan, I think we've all been for a long time. You know, it's going to be a sight for sore eyes. So like I said, see college football playoff games on campus. So that's it for this week, though. Kickoffs in about 2 minutes. Do you guys have anything left? Because there is kind of one little, like, I don't want to say silly, but it's kind of sad too. Thing I want to mention here, which I'm sure you both know what I'm going to say. So
yep, no, I got nothing. Go ahead and take the cake there, Alex. Anything?
I think he's going to say what I wanted to say. So
yeah, so you know, from everybody here, I've always been a Kirk Herbstreit fan, even though he's been an Ohio State guy. He's been one of the favorite guys on College Game Day forever.
Absolutely.
If you've watched that show ever, and again, that show is the standard for pregame shows. They do it the best. His golden retriever Ben has been on that show the last couple seasons, and really become like a staple of the show. Kirk literally takes him everywhere, so flies him around with him. Kirk Herbstreit does Thursday Night Football now too for the NFL, so he's really been his traveling companion and his best friend. Sadly, finally passed away over the weekend from cancer. Kirk's kind of been updating everybody, you know, off and on about what's going on, and they had to put him down on Thursday morning. So just sending our show condolences out to Kirk Herbstreit, obviously, and sad to see Ben go, man. He was a cool dog. So
for sure,
that is it for us today. Didn't want to not mention it. So we will see everybody back here next weekend. Signing off. See you.
Peace.